This is Madam Reed. On this channel, we don't indulge in cheap sentimentality. We only audit the accounts of human nature. The story of Jillian and Eddie sounds like an urban legend with a touch of magic. A pregnant woman kicked out by her billionaire husband, and a bottle of blue potion that can erase memories, but stripping away the magical facade. This is actually a textbook case of narcissistic personality disorder and a subsequent act of revenge. 7 months pregnant, I had a huge fight with him, and he kicked me out of the house. Penniless, I took refuge in a shop on the street corner to keep warm. As I stared blankly at a small blue bottle on the counter, the shop assistant approached me. "Hello, we have only one bottle of memory erasing potion left. Do you need it?" I froze, then gave a bitter smile. "I don't have any money," she said. "It doesn't cost money. You just need to exchange something from your body for it." I instinctively raised my hand and touched my bulging belly. Will this do? The antique shop on the corner of the Lower East Side didn't look like it belonged in modern Manhattan. It smelled of old paper and dried sage. Jillian, 7 months pregnant and shivering violently, stared at the small blue bottle on the dusty counter. "It's the last one," the shopkeeper said. Her voice was like dry leaves scraping together. "One sip, and the person who drinks it will forget everything about the person they loved most. Every memory, every touch, erased." Jillian let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. "I don't have any money. My cards were frozen an hour ago. I don't want money," the old woman said, her eyes drifting down to Jillian's swollen belly. "The price is heavy. You must trade something precious from your body." Jillian instinctively covered her stomach. The baby kicked, a small, fluttery protest. "This can I trade? The future of this." It was a desperate, dark thought, born of a mind pushed to the brink. Just an hour ago, Jillian had been standing in her own kitchen, or rather, Eddie's kitchen, the minimalist, stainless steel prison in their Tribeca penthouse. She had begged for a piece of bread, just one slice of toast. "You're gaining too much weight, Jillian," Eddie had said, not looking up from his tablet. He was wearing his cashmere sweater, looking every inch the tech mogul the world worshipped. "The doctor said your blood pressure is high. I'm doing this for you. No carbs after 2 p.m. I'm pregnant, Eddie." "I'm starving," Jillian had screamed, the hormones and the hunger finally snapping her patience. Eddie had sighed, the long, suffering sigh of a man dealing with a petulant child. "If you can't control yourself, maybe you need to cool off. Get out." He had opened the door. In the middle of a December blizzard, he knew she had no cash. He knew he controlled every credit card. He wanted to teach her a lesson. So here she was, buying oblivion. Jillian grabbed the blue bottle. "Deal." When she pushed back out into the snow, the wind bit at her neck, but she felt numb. She hadn't walked 2 blocks before a sleek black luxury SUV pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. "Jillian, are you insane?" It was Eddie. He jumped out, wearing only his indoor slippers in the slush. He looked frantic, a perfect performance. "You're 32 years old, not a teenager running away in this weather." He grabbed her shoulders, his grip tight. "What if something happened to the baby? Do you ever think about anyone but yourself?" If this were yesterday, Jillian would have fought back. She would have listed every insult he'd hurled at her. But with the cold glass bottle hidden in her coat pocket, she just looked at him. She felt nothing. The battery of her love had finally run out. "I'm tired," she whispered. "Let's go home." Eddie paused, surprised by her submission. His face softened into that charming, boyish look that had once made her give up her career as a top PR executive to become his shadow. He pulled her into a hug. "See, I knew you'd calm down. Come on, let's get you warm." Back in the penthouse, the underfloor heating wrapped around them. Eddie knelt, taking off her wet boots. "Hungry?" he asked, looking up with big, caring eyes. "I'll cook for you." Jillian nodded. "I'm starving." Eddie frowned. "You know your stubbornness is bad for the child, but fine." He went to the kitchen, Eddie. The billionaire who had never washed a dish in his life until she got pregnant. Now, he insisted on preparing every meal. It was his way of ensuring purity. 20 minutes later, he placed a bowl in front of her. It was boiled kale and unseasoned cod. No salt, no oil, just limp. Green leaves and white, rubbery fish floating in hot water. Eat up, he said, sitting opposite her, watching her like a hawk. Superfoods best for the brain. Jillian took a bite. The fish tasted like wet cardboard. The smell of the kale made bile rise in her throat. She forced it down. Bite by agonizing bite, while Eddie poured himself a glass of aged whiskey and cut into a medium-rare steak he had ordered from a private chef earlier. The smell of the seared beef filled the room. Is it good? Eddie asked, swirling his drink. Yes, Jillian lied. Her face was pale. Suddenly, his phone rang. A sharp, demanding tone. It's the investors, he said, jumping up. He grabbed his coat. I have to go to the office. Stay here. Don't go out. You're too emotional. The door slammed. Jillian looked at the bowl of green sludge. She stood up, walked to the bathroom, and vomited everything up. She washed her face, staring at her reflection. Hollow eyes, thin cheeks. She looked like a ghost. No more, she told the mirror. She pulled out her hidden emergency phone, an old prepaid burner she'd kept from her PR days, and ordered the greasiest, spiciest buffalo wings and a double cheeseburger from a local diner. When the delivery arrived, she sat on the floor of the multi-million-dollar apartment and ate like a wolf. Grease dripped down her chin. The spice burned her tongue, making her feel alive for the first time in months. It was the best meal she had eaten in years. She slept alone in the king-size bed. Eddie didn't come home. He didn't text. The next morning, his call came at 10 a.m. His voice was cold, professional. I left the merger files in the study. Bring them to the Hamptons house. Now, Jillian didn't argue. She found the files, called a car service, and headed east. The Hamptons estate was a sprawling fortress of glass and stone by the ocean. When she arrived, the security guard stopped her. I'm sorry, ma'am. Private event. Mr. Carter said no unauthorized guests. I'm his wife, Jillian said, holding up the files. I don't have you on the list, ma'am. Jillian stood in the freezing wind for 40 minutes, calling Eddie. 1 ring, 2 rings. Voicemail. Finally, the gate buzzed open. Jessica, Eddie's 24-year-old executive assistant, came jogging down the driveway. She wasn't wearing a coat. She was wearing a sheer cover-up over a neon bikini. Oh my God, Jillian, Jessica chirped, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Eddie is so busy, he totally forgot you were coming. Come on in. Jillian followed her to the back of the house. The meeting Eddie was supposedly having was a pool party. The heated infinity pool was steaming in the cold air. Music thumped. People were drinking champagne. And there was Eddie lying on a lounge chair, sunglasses on, looking like a king. You took long enough. Eddie snapped when he saw Jillian. He didn't stand up. Give me the papers. You're so slow these days. Pregnancy brain. I was stuck at the gate. You didn't answer, Jillian said, her voice flat. Stop making excuses. You always play the victim. Eddie snatched the papers. Look at you. You're bundled up like a marshmallow. Jessica manages to look professional and fit. Why can't you put in some effort? Jillian looked at Jessica. The girl was shivering slightly but smiling, holding a bowl of strawberries. Here, Eddie, Jessica cooed. Picking up a strawberry, she dipped it in chocolate and held it to his lips. Eddie didn't hesitate. He opened his mouth and ate it, his lips brushing Jessica's fingers. The air left Jillian's lungs. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the disrespect, the public display of ownership. He looked at Jessica the way he used to look at Jillian before he won her. Jessica giggled, then turned to grab a towel. She took a step, feigned a trip, and with a theatrical little scream, fell right into Eddie's lap. Eddie's arms wrapped around her bare waist instantly. "Who are there? Careful," he laughed, his voice low and intimate. "You need to be steady on those legs." He didn't push her away. He held her. Jillian felt a buzzing in her ears. The rage that had been dormant for months suddenly woke up. It was a hot, blinding white light. She reached into her bag, pulled out the heavy latest model smartphone Eddie demanded. She carried so he could track her location, and walked to the edge of the balcony overlooking the pool. "Eddie," she screamed. He looked up, Jessica still in his lap. Jillian raised the phone high and hurled it with every ounce of strength she had left. Splash. The phone hit the center of the pool, sinking like a stone. The music seemed to stop. The party guests gasped. Eddie stared at the rippling water, then up at Jillian, his face turning a terrifying shade of purple. "Jillian," he roared, pushing Jessica aside. "Get down here. Have you lost your mind?" Jillian gripped the railing, her knuckles white. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just stared down at the man she had destroyed her life for. And for the first time, she saw him clearly. He wasn't a king. He was just a small, cruel man with a lot of money. Eddie stormed up the stairs, water dripping from his hands where he had splashed the pool water in anger. He grabbed Jillian by the arm, dragging her into the guest house to avoid the prying eyes of his business partners. "Are you crazy?" he hissed, his face inches from hers. "Do you know who is out there? That was the board of directors. You embarrassed me." Jillian pulled her arm away. "You embarrassed yourself, Eddie. You have your assistant sitting in your lap while your pregnant wife stands in the cold." She tripped. "God, you are so insecure," Eddie scoffed, wiping his hands on a towel. "This is why I don't take you out anymore. You're jealous, you're irrational, and frankly, you're looking unhinged. Go back to the city. I can't deal with your drama right now." He turned his back on her. And Jillian, "Don't expect me home tonight. I need space." Jillian didn't argue. She took the car service back to the city, sitting in silence as the winter landscape blurred past. She felt a cramping in her lower back, a dull ache she attributed to the stress, and the car ride. She spent the next 2 days alone in the penthouse. The silence was heavy. She started organizing things, not cleaning, but separating. Her books, her clothes, the few pieces of jewelry she had bought with her own money before she married him. On the third day, the television in the living room was on. It was a business news channel, breaking news tech giant Eddie Carter on the future of Carter Corp. Jillian sat down on the sofa, her hand resting on her belly. The cramping hadn't stopped. It had become a persistent, rhythmic squeezing. Her head pounded with a headache that blurred her vision. On the screen, Eddie sat in a studio in Times Square. He looked impeccable, charismatic, the golden boy of Wall Street. The interviewer, a sharp-looking woman, leaned in. "Eddie, congratulations on being named Entrepreneur of the Year again. Your female fan base is enormous. Everyone wants to know, what is the status of your personal life?" There have been rumors. Jillian held her breath. This was it. The moment he would acknowledge her, he had to. She was 7 months pregnant with his heir. Eddie looked directly into the camera. He smiled that dazzling smile, the one that sold billions in software. "The rumors are just noise," he said smoothly. "I am single. I am married to my work." Jillian felt like she had been punched in the chest. Single. The camera cut to a wide shot. Sitting in the green room, visible through the glass partition behind the interview set, was Jessica. She was laughing, holding Eddie's jacket, looking at a monitor. The interviewer pressed, "So, no secret wife tucked away, no family on the way?" Eddie laughed, a light, dismissive sound. "Absolutely not. I'm a free agent." Jillian's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It was a photo. It was taken from inside that green room. It showed the back of Eddie's head during the interview, and Jessica's hand resting on his shoulder. The caption read, "Stop pretending, Grandma. He's ashamed of you. Look at yourself." The rage hit Jillian again, but this time it was followed by a sharp tearing pain in her head. The world tilted, the headache exploded into a blinding supernova. Her chest seized. She couldn't breathe. Preeclampsia. The word floated in her mind from her doctor's warnings. High blood pressure. Stress trigger. She tried to stand up, to reach for the landline, but her legs gave way. She hit the marble floor hard. Darkness swarmed in from the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard was Eddie's voice on the television, laughing about his freedom, while she lay dying on the floor of his golden cage. When Jillian opened her eyes, the world was white. Sterile white ceiling, white sheets, white noise of machines. Eddie was there. He looked terrible. His designer suit was rumpled, his tie loose. He was sitting in a chair next to the bed, his head in his hands. There were dried blood stains on his trousers. Her blood. He sensed her waking and jerked his head up. His eyes were red-rimmed. "Jillian," his voice cracked. He sounded terrified. "Oh God, Jillian, you're awake." He reached for her hand. His palms were sweaty. "Are you okay? Does your head hurt?" Jillian didn't answer. She felt light, too light. She moved her other hand to her stomach. It was flat. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Eddie started to cry. Ugly, heaving sobs. It was the blood pressure, a seizure. The doctors, they had to choose. They tried Jillian, they really tried. Jillian stared at the ceiling. She didn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. It was as if the fire that had burned her house down had taken all the moisture with it. He's gone, Eddie choked out. Our son, he's gone. It was a boy. Jillian closed her eyes. She remembered the deal in the antique shop. You must trade something precious. She hadn't traded the baby. Eddie had. Eddie had traded their son for his stock price, for his ego, for a lie told on national television. I'm sorry. Eddie wept, pressing his face against her hand. I should have been there. I didn't know you were sick, that interview. It was just business, Jillian, you know that. I had to say it for the merger. The investors get nervous about family distractions. Busyness, Jillian whispered. Her voice was like sandpaper. Eddie looked up, desperate for absolution. Yes, but we can try again. We're young. The doctor said once you heal, in a year or two, we can have another baby, a better one. We'll be more careful. A better one. That was the sentence that severed the last thread. To him, people were just version updates. Version 1.0 crashed. Just launch version 2.0. Jillian pulled her hand away from his grip, slowly, deliberately. Get out, she said. Jillian, please, I want to stay. Get out. Eddie stood up, looking hurt, like a puppy kicked by its owner. Okay, you're in shock. I'll go get you some clothes from home. Rest. He left. Jillian lay in the silence for 3 days. She refused to speak to the psychologist. She refused to speak to Eddie. On the 4th day, she sat up. The pain was still there, but her mind was crystal clear, cold and sharp as a diamond. She picked up her phone. She dialed a number she hadn't called in years. Her old law school roommate, now a shark of a divorce attorney. Linda, Jillian said, I need you to open an offshore trust, and I need a settlement agreement drawn up today. Eddie tried to keep her in the hospital longer, claiming she was fragile. Jillian discharged herself. When she returned to the penthouse, she didn't go to the nursery. She walked past the door painted in soft blues, the room full of unopened toys, and went straight to the guest room. I want to go to my parents' old beach house in Charleston, she told Eddie that night. Eddie looked relieved. Yes, that's a great idea. A vacation. I'll come with you. Once I wrap up this acquisition next week, we'll go down there. Just the two of us. No, Jillian said. I need to go alone to clear my head. Eddie hesitated, then nodded. Okay, if you're mad about me not being there, look, I want to make it up to you. He pulled out his phone. I transferred $5 million to your account. Buy whatever you want. A new wardrobe, a car, anything. Jillian's phone pinged. She looked at the notification. 5 million, she repeated. The price of a son. And Eddie continued, I'll book the best doctors. We'll start planning for the next pregnancy as soon as you're ready. I'm not having another baby, Jillian said. Eddie frowned. Don't say that. It's the grief talking. I want you to get a vasectomy, Jillian lied. If we are going to be together, I can't go through this fear again. Not yet. She needed him to believe she was staying. She needed him compliant. Eddie looked conflicted, but his guilt was a powerful tool. If that's what it takes to make you feel safe, I'll do it. For now. Good, Jillian said. Now take me to dinner somewhere real. Real? I want spicy food, she said. And I want you to eat it with me. The diner was loud, smelling of stale coffee and frying bacon. It was the kind of place Eddie hadn't stepped foot in since college. He looked ridiculous in his Italian suit, sitting on the cracked red vinyl booth. Are you sure about this place? He asked, wiping the silverware with a napkin. Positive, Jillian said. She ordered a massive platter of nachos with jalapenos and a milkshake. Eddie watched her eat. So, he started, trying to make conversation. When you get back from Charleston, I was thinking we should make it official. Jillian paused, a nacho halfway to her mouth. Official. Eddie pulled out his phone. I spoke to the PR team. The single comment played well for the stock. But now we need a redemption arc. The reformed playboy settles down. It polls very well with female demographics. He swiped the screen and showed her a photo. It was a sketch of a wedding dress, Vera Wang custom. We'll get the license next week. Then a massive wedding in the spring, Lake Como. Or maybe Bali. You always wanted to go to Bali. His eyes were shining. He wasn't seeing her. He was seeing a storyboard for his life. A new plot twist to keep the audience engaged. Bali sounds nice, Jillian said, her voice hollow. Great. I'll have Jessica start the bookings. He stopped, realizing his mistake. I'll have a new assistant handle it. Speaking of Jessica, Jillian said, putting down her food. I think I left my diamond earring at your office last week. The one you gave me for our anniversary. The Tiffany one, Eddie asked. Yes, can we stop by the office on the way home? It's bothering me. Sure, anything for you. The Carter Corp office was quiet at 9 p.m., but the executive wing was still lit. Jessica was there, of course. She was sitting at her desk, painting her nails. When she saw Jillian walk in with Eddie, her eyes widened. She stood up, smoothing her tight skirt. Eddie, I didn't know you were coming back, she said, ignoring Jillian completely. Jillian left an earring, Eddie muttered, walking past her. Jillian went to Eddie's desk. She pretended to look around. It's not here. Her eyes landed on a mug sitting on a shelf. It wasn't a fancy mug. It was a chipped, ugly ceramic thing painted to look like a squirrel, holding a nut. Jillian had made it in a pottery class on their second date, back when Eddie was just a coder in a garage. It had Eddie and Jillian scratched into the bottom. Jessica saw her looking at it. She smirked. Oh, that old thing. Jessica walked over and picked up the squirrel mug. I was actually using it for my paint water. It's so tacky, I thought it was trash. Jillian felt a cold calm wash over her. That's my mug. Oops, Jessica giggled. She tossed the mug from one hand to the other. Eddie, really? You need to update the decor in here. This dusty old thing is crash. Jessica accidentally let the mug slip. It hit the hardwood floor and shattered into 100 pieces. The squirrel's head rolled under the desk. Oh no, Jessica said, her voice devoid of regret. Sorry, Jillian. I guess it was just too fragile. For a second, there was silence. Then Eddie exploded. What did you do? He roared. The sound was so loud, it echoed off the glass walls. Jessica jumped back. Eddie, it's just a cheap cup. Get out, Eddie screamed. He dropped to his knees, ignoring his expensive suit pants, and started frantically picking up the shards. His hands were shaking. He cut his thumb on a piece of ceramic, blood dripping onto the white floor. Eddie, stop, Jillian said. She didn't move to help him. I can fix it, Eddie mumbled, his face pale. I can glue it. It's the one you made, the squirrel. You're the squirrel. He looked up at Jillian, his eyes wide with a sudden terrifying panic. Why is it broken? It shouldn't be broken. It was pathetic. He didn't mourn his son. He didn't mourn his wife's dignity. But a broken piece of pottery, an object he possessed, sent him into a spiral. Jessica, Eddie said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Pack your things. Eddie, you're joking, Jessica stammered. Over a mug, you're fired. Get security up here. If she's not out of the building in 10 minutes, I'll have her arrested for trespassing. Jessica burst into tears, wailing as she ran out of the office. Eddie stayed on the floor, cradling the ceramic shards in his bloody hands. I'm sorry, Jillian. I'll fix it. Look, I saved the part with your name. Jillian looked down at him. Don't bother, Eddie. It's just trash now. No, it's not. It's us. Go wash your hands, Jillian said tiredly. I want to go home, the next morning. The apartment was filled with suitcases. Not Jillian's, Eddie's. He had a 3-day trip to Tokyo for the final merger signatures. I hate leaving you right now, Eddie said, hovering in the kitchen while Jillian made coffee. He looked exhausted. His thumb was bandaged. I'll be fine, Jillian said. I'm going to Charleston today, remember? Right, Charleston. Eddie came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. He rested his chin on her shoulder. When I get back, I'm coming straight there. We'll start over. Fresh slate. I love you, Jillian. You know that, right? Jillian poured liquid into a travel cup. But it wasn't coffee. She took the small blue bottle from her pocket. She uncorked it. The liquid inside was clear. Odorless. It looked just like water. She poured the entire bottle into a glass of vitamin water she had prepared for him. "Here," she said, turning around and handing him the glass. "Drink this. It's electrolytes. You look dehydrated." Eddie took the glass. He smiled, that soft, trusting smile that only she ever saw. The smile of a man who believed he was forgiven. "You take such good care of me," he said, "even after everything." "Drink it all," Jillian said softly. Eddie tipped the glass back. He gulped it down in 3 swallows. "Refreshing," he said, wiping his mouth. "Tastes clean." He checked his watch. "The driver is downstairs. I have to run." He leaned in to kiss her lips. Jillian turned her head slightly, so his kiss landed on her cheek. "It was cold by Eddie," she said. "See you in a few days, babe." He grabbed his briefcase and walked out the door. The elevator dinged. The doors closed. Jillian waited 1 minute, then 2. The moment the building confirmed he had left, she moved. She didn't pack clothes. She didn't pack photos. She took her laptop. She took the hard drive with the offshore account details. She took the keys to the new house in Charleston, which she had bought under her maiden name, a name Eddie had probably forgotten she even had. She called the cleaning service she had hired. "He's gone," she told the crew. "Come in. I want everything gone. My clothes, my toiletries, the books, the extra toothbrush. If there is a hair on the pillow, remove it. If there is a scent of my perfume, scrub it out." She stood in the center of the living room one last time. It looked like a model home, cold, impersonal, perfect. It was as if Jillian had never existed. She walked out into the crisp New York morning, hailed a yellow cab, and said, "JFK Airport, please." She didn't look back. Only a year later, the southern sun in Charleston was different from New York. It was warm, golden, and slow. Jillian stood behind the counter of the Novel and Hound, her independent bookstore and coffee shop. It was a cozy place, smelling of roasted beans and old paper, a better version of the shop where she had bought the potion. A large golden retriever, Goldie, was sleeping in a sunbeam by the door. Jillian had found Goldie at a shelter 2 weeks after arriving. Eddie had forced her to give up her dog years ago because it shed on the Italian rugs. Getting Goldie back felt like reclaiming a piece of her soul. The bell above the door chimed. Jillian looked up, smiling. "Welcome, can I get you?" Her voice died in her throat. A man stood in the doorway. He was thinner than she remembered. His hair was graying at the temples, and his eyes were haunted. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath them. He wore a casual jacket, but it was expensive. It was Eddie. Jillian's heart hammered against her ribs. Had the potion failed? Had he found her? Eddie walked into the shop. He looked around, confused, his gaze darting from the bookshelves to the coffee machine. Then he looked at Jillian. He stared right into her eyes. And there was nothing, no recognition, no spark of anger. No flash of love, just the blank stare of a stranger. "Hi," Eddie said, his voice raspy. "Sorry, I don't know why I came in here. I was just walking down the street and I felt pulled." Jillian gripped the counter so hard her knuckles turned white. "We have great coffee," she managed to say. Her voice was steady. Eddie rubbed his chest right over his heart. "Yeah, coffee black." He waited while she poured it. He looked down at Goldie. A flicker of pain crossed his face. "Nice dog," he whispered. "I feel like I used to have a dog. Or maybe I wanted one. I can't remember." He looked up at Jillian again. "Do I know you?" Jillian froze. "You look familiar," Eddie said, squinting. He leaned closer. "Have we met?" "I don't think so," Jillian said. "I've lived here a long time," Eddie sighed. A sound of infinite exhaustion. "Right. Sorry. My memory. It's been bad lately. The doctors call it dissociative amnesia. I lost a huge chunk of time about a year ago." He took the coffee. His hand was shaking. "It's weird," he confided, talking to this stranger because he had no one else. "I have everything, the money, the houses, but I wake up every morning looking for someone. I walk through my apartment and I feel like I'm missing a limb. I scream names, but I don't know who I'm calling." He laughed bitterly. "They say I'm crazy. Maybe I am." He put a $20 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." He turned to leave. At the door, he paused and looked back at Jillian one last time. His eyes were wet. "She must have been wonderful," he whispered to the air. "Whoever she was." Then he walked out into the sunlight and disappeared. Epilogue: 3 months later, the news reached Jillian through a notification on her phone. Tech billionaire Eddie Carter found dead. The article was short. It happened during a hurricane that hit the Hamptons. Witnesses said Eddie Carter had been seen on the edge of his property, near the raging ocean, in the middle of the storm. His security staff said he had been running toward the waves, screaming for his wife. He kept yelling, "Jillian," the report said. But records show Mr. Carter was unmarried and had no known partner named Jillian. He had drowned chasing a ghost. His mind, broken by the impossible weight of missing someone he couldn't remember, had finally created a hallucination to fill the void. Jillian sat on her porch in Charleston. The ocean breeze was gentle here. She sipped her tea. She put the phone down, face down on the table. "Good girl, Goldie," she said, scratching the dog's ears. The sunset painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and orange. It was a beautiful evening. Jillian took a deep breath of the salty air, closed her eyes, and for the first time in forever, she felt completely, utterly at peace. Eddie is dead. He died in a hurricane, chasing a phantom whose name he couldn't even remember. The ending is perfectly ironic. Many people think that revenge means ruining someone's reputation or making them cry. Jillian showed us that it is unnecessary. She didn't even yell at him. She simply smiled, handed him a glass of water, and then completely erased herself from his memory. Even with billions of dollars, without his memories, he was just an empty shell. In this story, Jillian's most brilliant move wasn't the potion, but her cold-bloodedness after her awakening. From the moment she woke up in the hospital, she was no longer a victim. She didn't shed a single tear, precisely transferring assets, covering her tracks, administering the potion, and walking away, clean and efficient, like a surgical procedure. Ladies, remember this. If a man makes you feel suffocated, don't try to change him. And don't waste time arguing. The most sophisticated revenge isn't making him remember your hatred. It is when you are sipping tea in the Charleston sunshine, and he can't remember until his dying day what precious thing he lost. I am Madam Reed. See you next time.